Good afternoon, I'm Michael Doudna. A proposed 72-hour ceasefire over after only 90 minutes. Israel resumed shelling Gaza after they say 2 Israeli soldiers were killed and 1 was kidnapped. Israel says its troops were attacked by a suicide bomber while it attempted to destroy a tunnel. Since then, Israel resumed bombing the region of Rafah, killing more than 30 people while injuring more than 100. Hamas says they did not kidnap the soldier and claim it was Israel who violated the terms. No ceasefire has lasted so far, and with neither side accepting responsibility, it seems that there is no end in sight. Needless to say, the groups have struggled to get along or even get to the negotiating table.
Having a flare-up of this awful situation between Gaza and Israel every couple of years, that we can address core issues. And that includes the security for Israel. That includes Israel not having to fear tunnels and attacks from the air. That includes the trade and access and movement for the citizens, the Palestinian citizens of Gaza. There's a lot of issues that have to be addressed. There's security needs on both sides that will have to be addressed if we're going to prevent recurrence of this every few years, which is what we want to avoid. But now the concentration is getting back to a ceasefire to create the political space so those issues can be discussed.
Both groups have been finger-pointing instead of working through other issues, and with an Israeli soldier captured, things could get much worse. Israel has shown it is willing to go to great lengths to get back one of its own, and some say the recent abduction will just lead to an escalation in violence. That was ISIS blowing up the supposed tomb of the prophet Jonah. But not every religious site and artifact is receiving the same fate. In fact, some claim ISIS is selling Christian and Jewish artifacts to fund their caliphate. I know it sounds crazy, but with militants sitting on the doorstep of Baghdad for almost a month, ISIS is trying to be more of a government instead of a terrorist group. And to do that, some say ISIS is using stolen artifacts to bankroll the regime. ISIS is taking advantage of the area's rich history, selling artifacts from ancient Mesopotamia to help pay for its new Islamic State. When the militants took control of Mosul last month, it took over an area in the middle of hundreds of ancient sites. Now archaeologists are calling for American help to save the area's history. ISIS now has the largest war chest of any terrorist group in the world, now all adding up to around $2 billion. And with the most money comes the best weapons and the ability to pay more troops. By almost all reports, ISIS is now functioning as a government, ruling parts of Syria and Iraq as they try to form their own caliphate. What was once a nightmare may turn into a storybook ending. Picture this: 2 Americans overseas, working to save others' lives, pushed to the brink of death by the very disease they are fighting, a disease which kills up to 90% of those it infects, leading to a last-ditch effort, the only hope, an experimental serum, untested on any human subjects, so in its beginning stages that only 3 doses even exist, flown to the patients just in time. And so far, the serum has worked, leading one doctor to call the recovery miraculous. With the second patient arriving in Atlanta today, doctors are hoping for a similar story for her. Reports say patient 1 is doing fine and has responded to the serum extremely well. However, the second patient has not been as fortunate, although they do say she has seen some improvement. But now that both patients are in the care of American doctors and are at Emory Hospital, the doctors are now cautiously optimistic that the story may have a happy ending. The difficult and dangerous U.S. military mission in Afghanistan has stormed back into the headlines with word that a U.S. general has been shot and killed by a gunman believed to have been an Afghan soldier. It happened just outside of Kabul at a training center for Afghan military officers. 14 others, including some Americans and a German brigadier general, were wounded in the attack. The gunman was killed. The Pentagon says the general's death ranks as one of the highest-ranking American deaths in the war since 9/11. And the fight for eastern Ukraine, tensions are only ratcheting up. A NATO official tells CNN that there are about 20,000 Russian troops along the border. That's 8,000 more than just last week, and it's not just the number that's triggering concerns. The NATO official says they are now seeing infantry and a lot of artillery and special forces, and that they could be on the move in just a matter of hours. Meanwhile, Ukraine's military is putting its focus and its firepower into a push against pro-Russian rebels, holding 2 key areas. Government security officials say they are preparing for a, quote, massive assault on the city of Donetsk.